So the next video you're going to show us, Tomoy, is Out of Hours, I believe, which is is it a six part series, or is it kind of this is a proof of concept?
Yeah, it's going to be released as a 6-part web series, sort of 10 minutes each. But we shot it as a kind of proof of concept to show commissioners for a large commission.
Cool. And the director is Amanda Mealing. Let's have a quick look at the clip.
I have the new E-Class, so 300 kilometers is nothing. And then we go to this amazing restaurant in a 15th century Dominican abbey. It's 3 Michelin stars, an exceptional sommelier. They have really nice rooms too. Okay, done. Better get to the airport. See you next time, Ebs.
See you soon, Hans. And thanks again for the bag.
Oh yes, I nearly forgot. Just give me £200. Next time, or whenever.
Hans, hang on a sec. You better take it back.
What's wrong?
Well, I thought you were giving it to me, as a gift.
Seriously? It was like more than £1,000.
Maybe I misunderstood. I thought you said you were getting rid of it.
Yeah, because I never use it. I wasn't throwing it in the trash.
Yeah, but when I say I'm getting rid of something, I either give it to a charity shop or to some friends. That's what I thought you were doing.
You know you can sell your stuff on eBay.
Yes, but sometimes I like to give it away, as a gift.
But that's not a nice gift, Abs. If I give someone a gift, I give them something new, not the, oh shit, I don't want anymore.
It's not a Christmas present, okay? But when I no longer have a use for something and I know someone else will appreciate it, I like to give it to them, and it makes me happy to know that they'll enjoy it.
Okay, Tom, so tell us about the particular screenshot you're going to talk to us through.
Okay, so for this one, I did have to light a little bit, just because when we cut from the wide shot, of the car arriving in front of the hotel building, we kind of established a few light sources that were within the scene, and I had to use, the challenge for me was to kind of use those light sources as motivation for the lights that are actually hitting our character at this moment. So one of the sources is this here, which is an interior light of the building.
Yeah.
And that is obviously in shot. It's not blown out, which means it's probably not strong enough to actually light our actor. So in order to kind of fake and kind of extend that light into the car to light the scene, I had to I've got like a LED unit over here, just like a small battery powered thing. Again, super low budget. No access to big powered units or anything like that, or big trucks to carry the units on. So it was all kind of really slimline, lightweight, low power units.
The LED panel, was it?
Yeah, that's right. I think it's just an aperture one, like a really cheap one. So what that is doing is extending this, or pretending to extend this light. First of all, in terms of power, powerful reach for it to get into the car. Mm-hmm. Also, for it to get under the chassis of the car here, which also creates massive shadows. And also, again, like the last one, to reach around his face and into this cheek to get the little triangle. Because obviously, logically speaking, this light back here, because light travels in straight lines, it would never hit him on this side and then still reach around his nose and then into this cheek.
That's a good point.
So that's why I had to put a unit up here.
Yeah.
And then the other light, which is kind of, again, it doesn't make logical sense because it's coming from, in the previous shot, we saw not only the kind of ambient street light, but also the brake lights on the car, the tail lights of the car, which are kind of red. So that kind of motivated this light here, which is hitting the back of his head. I think that was also the same unit, but with much lower level and with some sort of urban sodium gel on it or something. to try and get a bit of color contrast between this white light here and the orange light. And again, it kind of defies logic, because in order for the light to reach him underneath the car chassis, that light would have to be really, really low. Street lights are really high, up in the sky, up in the air. So that light had to be really, really low to reach under there. But I think you can kind of get away with it because it's plausible. Kind of, if it's soft enough and low enough, it can feel a little bit just like general ambience.
I love that debate of the sort of the immediacy of it, of like going, you know, because you're thinking as a director, you're thinking, how long am I going to be on this shot for? You know, is this an extended 10 or 20 seconds of him actually sitting at looking at something, and then you're curious about what he's looking at, or is it kind of just a bit of filler before you go on to the next cut or the next scene? So it's just, but the lighting concept's really interesting, because you're actually thinking it very subconsciously, but it's not oppressive. That's the thing about the lighting. It's really nice, and what you've thought about there is the naturalness of the situation. I like that a lot.
Yeah, thank you. I think as well, you have to kind of, when you're shooting these sequences, these kind of narrative sequences, unlike music videos where you've got a little bit more kind of creative freedom and it may not necessarily be cut back to back, requiring kind of lighting continuity to be as strict. In these narrative things, you've got to kind of plan ahead and make sure that you've got light sources to cover your other angles later as well. So you can definitely cheat stuff. You can definitely move things around, put light where it suits you better, but only so much. So a lot of this lighting actually happened, or the decisions stem from blocking effectively to begin with, and again kind of negotiating with the director what shape the action is going to take, you know, how the car is, where the car is coming from, how it's oriented to the building that's also part of the story, and things like that, and what angles you're going to cover it from. So a lot of the lighting actually happened before we put the camera down.
So again, so the last bit, I just spoke over you, sorry.
So because of that planning, a lot of this lighting actually happened before we put the camera down.
Also, another consideration would have been the practical of the weather on the day. I mean, obviously, it was an exterior shot, and your interior shot on an exterior day, part of the shoot. But did the weather play a part in terms of your decisions?
Yeah. So the weather during the shoot was really, really bad. This rain on the window is all real, which kind of adds to it. Always does add to it. But also it meant that, I don't know, other than it being a motivator for us to try and get it all done as quickly as possible, it did kind of hinder us a little bit, just because, you know, it was Storm Dennis at the time, and there were times when, you know, I'd want to put, I remember once I was trying to put up a flag. I wanted to put up a flag, and I looked around and it just wasn't happening, because we'd literally run out of crew members, because everybody was just like stood on light stands and holding down various bits of equipment to stop it from blowing away. And at those moments, you just kind of got to accept that maybe the weather conditions are having a little bit of an impact on the imagery. And I think definitely there are shots throughout the series as well, which you can see the impact of the weather. But, you know, you've always got to work within certain limitations. Things like weather, you can't control weather.
You can also never control what's going on outside around your houses, can you?
I can't hear anything.
Okay, good. All right, cool. Brilliant. Okay, so that's great. What was the... was it a challenging shoot in general, or was it actually, like, you know, besides this particular instance, did it go quite smoothly? How many shoot days did you have for the whole thing?
Yeah, again, it was super low budget, and it was entirely on location, and it was entirely at night, which was an incredible challenge for everybody involved, including director Amanda Mealing, who has a role on the UK hospital drama. So she was working all the way through the day and then coming out to direct this at night, which was the same for all of us. So it was incredibly challenging. It was all on location, so we had to move quickly. and we, in a lot of, well, I'd say all of the lighting situations, there were lights, normal lights that you'd find in a kind of urban environment that I had no control over whatsoever. So this is definitely one of those instances. And it kind of makes things a little bit tricky because this light here, for instance, is set at a certain level, and I didn't have any control over what level that was. Which means that your base ambient level is really, really low. So any lights that you put in, you really, like this one here, you really have to tickle it in. Otherwise it starts to look lit. And you have to keep those levels low. So the actual, I don't know how to describe it, but the kind of the margin that you have to work within in terms of contrast ratios becomes that much narrower. So the tiniest little adjustment to the level of a particular unit makes a much bigger difference. And I think, sometimes, I did get it wrong on this show. Sometimes, it does look a little bit too lit, or it's not balanced very well with light sources that are already in shot. But, you learn from everything you shoot. So.
Did you consider that ideal in pre-production when it came to making sure that you had the right light to balance that?
Yeah, definitely. And actually it worked in our favor because we didn't have any access to generators or even mains power a lot of the time. Actually, the sort of lightweight, lower powered LED units that I had available to me, they actually worked out really well.
Good to know. Okay, so moving on to the next video clip. What's interesting is the challenges that you're facing, I think, as well as a DOP, and the fact that, I guess that's quite a rewarding aspect of the job, like having to sort of manage the problems and kind of like know how you can counterbalance the problem and kind of find the solution and the problem solving aspect of it. Is that quite a reward to the job in a sense?
Yeah, definitely. A lot of that happens during on the kind of lower budget shoots. A lot of that happens during pre-production, and actually I love that process. I love the pre-production and pre-visualization process, because you have to sort of, when you find a director that you work particularly well with, you basically start with this huge cloud of kind of abstract ideas that don't really have a shape or a form yet. And you go through this process where you're kind of just firing kind of reference material at each other, whether it's kind of the work of particular photographers or paintings or clips from films or music videos or whatever you like. And then you gradually through that process distill it down into something that is achievable and something that has a very specific sort of visual function to your story. And I love that. I love that process. And it forces you to be, and maybe this comes from being a camera assistant for years, but it really makes you kind of efficient in terms of what you are bringing to the shoot, what you'll need, what you might need, but also not overdoing it in terms of covering yourself. So it really makes you learn to get it right first time. And it doesn't always happen. It doesn't always work out. It doesn't matter how well you prep.
In that last shot you were talking about from Out of Hours, what was your crew? Who was you, the director, and how many others?
So I think most days I had one lighting assistant, one camera assistant, and that was it for my crew. Oh, right. And then I think we had makeup, wardrobe, props. So it was maybe a crew of 7 people in total, 7 or 8 people.
Yeah, it's not bad.
It's a really skeleton crew.
Yeah, that's good though.
It worked in our favour because the whole nature of the shoot meant that we had to move quickly from location to location. It kind of it suited the job.
Yeah, that's good to know. Knowing that you have to have the right crew, the right amount of crew for the right job, and just to get the job done, essentially, in a certain time frame. Moving on to the next video, we've got, I've even forgotten already.